Kellie-Jay Keen, because you might have remembered earlier on in the show we were playing you that piece of video from the incident up in Warwick University, I think it was, where basically the crowd gathered around Nadeem Zahawi and started chanting Tory scum at him, because he had the temerity to suggest that basically a woman was an adult, a human female. Apparently that's now a crime. Let's talk to Kellie-Jay Keen, because she's a writer for The Spectator, founder of Standing for Women, because Douglas Murray written an interesting piece today in The Times about how the trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard could be the end of the Me Too era. Kellie-Jay, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon.
Nice to see you. And just an update on the old situation up at Warwick University with Nadeem Zahawi. We're being told, I think it's Guido that's reporting it, that Yvette Cooper's son might have been one of those involved as the trans activist. I mean, these people are getting more and more insane as the weeks go by, aren't they?
Well, what a pride moment for any mum. Your child going out to university and intimidating a member of parliament. So what a source of endless pride and joy.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, they're all terribly white and middle class looking as well.
Well, of course, that's because they've got nothing better to do.
No, they haven't. What do you make, I don't know if you've had a chance to read Douglas Murray's piece today about the Me Too era, because there was a time when I suppose after the Harvey Weinstein stuff, that people were saying, women in particular were saying, you must believe all women. Any woman who makes an allegation about rape or makes an allegation about sexual assault must be believed. The police were even saying it, that, you know, absolutely they should not ever dismiss any woman saying something as if it might not be true.
Yeah, it's just really difficult, isn't it? I guess the pendulum had to swing in order for it to rest somewhere more rational and reasonable. And I think the backdrop of Believe All Women is that often women weren't believed at all.
Yes.
And so hopefully we are now in a place where rational, reasonable beliefs are prevailing.
Because there's no doubt, is there, that certainly in this country, and I can't speak for what it's like in America, but certainly in this country, there's been a history of the police basically screwing it up when it comes to investigations of rape, when it comes to prosecutions of rape. They don't seem to get it right very often. Yeah,
I mean, gosh, it's a difficult crime, isn't it? Because it does actually come down to a version of events as told by two people. Now, I don't mean that a rapist doesn't know that he's actually committed a rape.
Yeah.
I just mean that for the police, it's quite a difficult crime, I would think. Rather than finding some stolen jewels in the back of a car.
Yes.
It's a little bit difficult to find, but I'm hoping the police are working through it. They work closely with women's groups in order to find a way to actually get those convictions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that they've got it all wrong in the one direction. They've sometimes got it wrong in both directions. You know, they've prosecuted people who weren't guilty and who were later proved in court to be innocent because of text messages or things that were sent that clearly showed that was not what they were suggesting that the charge should say. And by the same token, they've treated an awful lot of women with scant regard who have been genuinely sort of traumatised.
Yeah, it is pretty atrocious. The conviction rate for rape in this country is really, really low.
Right.
And I do think the police have had a history of not taking it seriously. But we live in hope.
Yes. And what's your view of these women who talk about how dangerous it is all the time to walk the streets and how men have to be better at looking after women, or at least teaching each other not to be mean and not to wolf whistle and not to, you know, talk to women if they're not asked beforehand?
Well, yeah, wolf whistling and sort of unwanted attention is not great. I mean, I've had a fair share of it myself, even when I'm walking my kids to school.
Yeah.
You know, it's not very nice.
No.
To be walking into Tesco's with your kids and some bloke telling his son whether or not and what he'd like to do to you. So that's not very nice. And I think unwanted attention, I think we all know when it's in exchange. I'm pretty sure if a man gave me a wink and a nudge and he was really, really handsome and I was single, I don't expect that would be too bad. But most of us can read situations. As far as walking alone, I'm a bad person to ask because I don't like walking on my own. I grew up in a really small town where everybody knew my family.
Yeah.
And so walking alone was not very precarious. But I've lived in London. I would not have taken the tube home. And I've got lots of friends who are strident feminists who say that it is their right to walk home. But I'm like, I'm 5'1". I ain't running very fast.
Yeah.
No.
No, quite. And this is the trouble. I mean, I sort of cringe when I see men on television, in particularly, sort of defending wolf whistling as saying it's just a harmless bit of fun. I mean, it's not something I would ever do. It's certainly not something I would ever encourage my sons to do, and in fact, quite the reverse. You know, so it's a shame that people still think it's all right. But whether you are then going to start making it kind of, you know, a crime, something that the police can knock on your door and prosecute you for, I think it's just one of those things that we need to tell people just to stop doing it. I mean, there's now a sign, for example, at the bottom of the escalator at London Bridge Station, which says, unwanted touching is sexual harassment. And I'm going, well, surely everybody knows that. You have to put a sign up.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, I sort of think about the whole wolf whistling as a hate crime or harassment. You know, come on now, let's just stop that. The police have got barely enough time to solve actual crime. I don't believe in hate crime at all, so I certainly wasn't a supporter of misogyny as a hate crime. I think that's a ridiculous idea that wouldn't have helped women in any way, shape or form.
No, I don't think it would. And what do you say now as a woman living in 2022? Is it worse than it was? Is it better than it was? I mean, are men kind of less well behaved around women, do you think?
Gosh, I don't know, because the pornification of our society and young men's brains, I think I was very lucky that I grew up in an age where we didn't have the internet. You know, I'm a really happy, nearly 48-year-old woman. So I'm really happy to be this age. I think being a teenage girl or a teenage boy, or even someone in your 20s is hard work, never escaping the grip of the over-sexualisation of our society.
Yes. Yeah, no, I've got a 17-year-old son, and, you know, he's got a girlfriend, and it's kind of, you know, it's a bit cringy sometimes watching all of them gathering around together, but I suppose that's as it should be. I mean, they shouldn't want me hanging around either, but you know what I mean. It's kind of like, I dread to think what it must be like to be that age now.
Well, you can't escape your friends. So if you have an argument with your friend, or if you have an argument with your boyfriend, you've got a million different ways to interpret every text that comes through, whether or not it comes through, when it's read,
right,
how long he took to respond after he read it. I mean, goodness me, I would not be a teenager for all the world right now.
No, absolutely right. Well, listen, great to talk to you, Kellie-Jay Keen. Thank you very much indeed. For The Spectator, also founder of Standing for Women.